Hello dear book dragons, it's Matilda here, and today I'm making a video that I've been thinking about doing for a very long time, and it's about an author called Trudi Canavans. She's from Australia and she's written 3 very good fantasy series, and I don't see very many people talking about her books, so I thought I really want to talk about them because they're really good. And the first one is called The Black Magician Trilogy, and I don't know if it's the first series, but it's the first one I read anyway, and set in a town, in a country. We follow this main character Sonia in this city, and I have actually 2 different editions of this book because the oldest one, the first 2 books are fine, but the third one, when I read it, it was like missing 50 pages, a very important part of the book as well. So I had to order a new one, and it was the same in that one. Really frustrating. So I had to buy the new edition, and I must say the new one is nicer, but it's also of course more expensive. So if you want to read this ones, buy the white ones, the new edition from the beginning, because yeah, I think all of these in the last book is a little bit, yeah, something missing. It's 50 pages from another book. I was very confused the first time I tried to read it. Anyway, so this is about this young girl called Sonia, and she lives kind of in the slum in the city, and it's the rich people's children who goes to the magic school. This is a city called Imaden in the country of Kuralia, and there's several countries around it. In the beginning of our book, you get to see the map of the countries. So this is really a book about, yeah, magic school. Yeah, it's magic school, and it's also a lot about classicism. Yeah, because I mean she's a poor girl, and they are the rich people's kids who go in this magic school, and of course most of them live there all the time, and even the grown-ups are finished school and are teaching or living there. And in the beginning of this book, it's once a year the wizards have this forced by the king to have a purge of the slum. So they have to drive them out of the city. And Sonia, she's there with a friend, she gets so angry at the wizards that she throws a stone at them. And I mean, they have this magical ward against them, so they can't be hurt. But because she has magic, and she doesn't know she has magic, the stone goes through and hurts the wizard, and she's totally shocked. So she runs away. So kind of half of the first book is really, maybe not half, but quite a long part of the first book is about the wizards finding her. Because of course, if you're a rogue magician, you're dangerous, and I mean they really actually want to help her, but she's really afraid that they will hurt her or somehow hurt her. But so you get to follow 2 of the wizards trying to find her, and she's hiding away, and then the friend who's a thief, hiding in the slum, trying to find a powerful thief who can help her. So that part is a little bit frustrating, because we also get to follow these nice wizards, and there are wizards who are not nice, of course. And yeah, of course, obviously they do find her. And so that's when the interesting part begins, when she comes to school, and she gets been taught to control her magic and how to use her magic. But the tough part of these books are actually because she is from the slum, she's really heavily abused by the other young kids there. So it's a lot of magical bullying, So that's kind of even harsher than normal bullying, because it's really painful. I mean, they really torture her with magic. But as the name suggests, it's called the Black Magician. So there is a black magician on this school. And yeah, of course I can't tell you who that is, because that would be too much telling. So, I mean, most of the book is about her and her journey, learning and becoming really powerful. But it's also about this difference between black magic and good magic, I would say. And one of the other countries where everyone is using black magic, and it's, of course, it's not allowed in Sonia's country. So I really like these books. I've read them several times. And they're really interesting, and quite a bit of romantic as well, at least towards the end. And she's Trudi Canavans. She's also written a series that are after that, which is the Ambassador's Mission, the Traitor's Spy trilogy. It's called the other series is called. And I can't tell you too much of that one, of course, because I'll be saying too much about the first one. But it's it's really interesting. I think it's like 20 years later, and it's more not just about Sonia's country. You get to go to another country, and but the difference between good magic and black magic, and totally different culture. Yeah, it's really good. And she's also written a book that is like, I think, around 1,000 years before the other books, and that's The Magician's Apprentice. And I think this is one of my favorites, actually, because this is during the time when the Magician's Guild was quite new, and when black magic didn't exist, because it was what everyone was using, and it was called high magic. It wasn't dangerous. I mean, it was dangerous, but it wasn't. It was allowed. It was what everyone was doing, and this is about a girl called Tessia, who was assistant to her father, who was a healer, not a magical healer, but like a doctor. But she has magic, and I mean, the plan is that she wants to be a healer, but because she's a woman, they think, well, you should just get married and be a married woman. But a lot of things happens, and when they realize she has magic, she has to be trained, because even if this is in the beginning of the guild, they still have these rules that if you have magic, you have to be trained, because it's dangerous not to be trained. And this is, so I really like this so much, because it's about how healing became magic. Yeah, so that's really cool. Yeah, I really recommend all these books. So that's 7 books in the same world, but she has also written about 2 other series in a totally different world. So when I finished all those books, I read Age of the Five, which the first book is called Priestess of the White, and then we have Last of the Wilds and Voice of the Gods. So this is a totally different world, totally different kind of magic. Feels a little bit kind of Celtic in the beginning, but it's not, I would say. But in this world, they have priestesses and gods. I think it's 5 gods, obviously. Yeah, it's Age of the Five. So it's about this woman, Auraya, who's a priestess, or becoming a priestess. Yeah, she becomes the servant of the gods. and it's these gods. Yeah, they're interesting. You don't really know if they're good or not. And I can't say so much about that because it would be too much telling, but it's about her country and her rules and how, because they are the servants of the gods, they have magic, and yeah, I really need to reread this, and this is kind of complex world building, very interesting about these gods and how they, what do you say, rail against these people in her country against another people in another country, and how they trick them quite a lot, pretending to be gods, we are your gods, but they're also gods to these other people, but calling themselves other names then. So yeah, they are really, really good. And the last series, which is her newest series, is Thieves Magic, and the Millenniums Rule is called the name of the series. The first book is called Thieves Magic, and it's about two different people in two different places. So it's a young man called Tien, who goes to a wizard school, and he's kind of an archaeological student, magic. And he finds this ancient book that he can talk to. Well, I think if he writes in it and I think he can talk to it and gets letters back or something. It's really fascinating, and it's also about this young woman called Riel, who lives in a more medieval kind of country, I would say. His place is more like a feel of 1900s punk, steampunk world, where it's kind of a lot of machines. The wizards are using machines and stuff. But in her world, it feels more like Renaissance, maybe. So you follow these two different people, and in her world, it's illegal to use magic. And if you do use magic, it will show in the air. It becomes dark. It's like a spot of black in the air, so you can't miss it if it's done. It's like, as they call it, stealing from the angels. And of course she has magic and tries to hide it. So yeah, you follow these two people and their adventure, you could say. And the first book is maybe a little more slow going, but it has a really amazing finale, which of course I can't tell you about. But in the second book, Angel of Storms, yes, it's the second book, it's like a whole, you realize how much you didn't know in the first book when you get to the second book, because it's like, aha. So if you don't want any spoilers, you should stop watching now. If you do want to know a little bit more, I could say that, because I didn't realize this in the beginning on the first book. I thought they just lived in different parts of the same world, but they don't. They live in totally different worlds, and because they have so much magic, they can jump between worlds. And so in the second book, in the end of the first book, they both get to leave their own world. And this young man, he does it by himself. He's kind of gets tricked to do it and forced to do it, but he does it on his own, while Riel is kind of fooled by this angel. She thinks he's an angel, but really it's just an extremely powerful wizard who is this kind of leader of all the magicians in all of the worlds. So he can jump between the worlds, and he's been stranded in her world for many, many years. Most people think he's dead, but because there's a little magic in her world, he hasn't been able to leave. But because she can produce magic, what to say, with her help, he can leave. So in the beginning of the second book, she just gets transported to another world with him, and meets this horrible woman who asks her how much magic she has, and when she tries to show her how far she can reach, she just transports her to another world and leaves her in a desert. So, yeah. But she gets saved by lovely people who's kind of traveling people, and she gets to know get to know them, and falls in love with one of the men there. And they're in this group, and they can also travel between worlds, because the Ryan, yes, that's what he calls this angel, the Ryan. He has a lot of rules, and one of them is that traveling people are allowed to travel, but he wants to control all of them. But they are not magicians. But he wants to rule all the magicians in all of the worlds, and because he lost her when this woman left her in another world, but they of course get back together somehow. I don't remember exactly how, and she meets Tyan as well. I don't remember if she meet in the second book or in the third book, but this is so epic because there's a lot of things, so much going on, and traveling and jumping between worlds. It's really cool reading about this jumping, and because they're really powerful wizards, they're both in different ways learn how to become immortal, kind of. And the third book is called Successor's Promise, when they decide they have to kill the Ryan, because he's not a good person. He wants to rule, but he's not really maybe ruling so well, or he has too much magic, too much control. So, and the fourth book, the last book, is called Maker's Curse. So it's a lot about how to get the Ryan down, and how to make a new good world, because of course it will be total chaos after the success with bringing him down. So they need to fix that as well. Yeah, these are really, really good. And I hope she will write new books. She hasn't written anything after finishing this book. And this, I think, came out maybe, let's see, 2020. That's 4 years ago. Yeah, this is one of the first books I bought when I moved here 4 years ago. I remember that. Yeah, I think these are amazing. All the her series are really good. I think maybe the last one is the most epic one, kind of. And but I would begin with the Magician's Guild, or the Black Magician, if you want to try reading her. And yeah, I hope this gave you some interest to read Trudi Canavans' books, and I really hope she will write more. Thank you.